Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 13, text 8 through 12. We'll look at the last portion of it. Adhyatmagnana nityatvam tattvagnanardhadarshanam etat gnanam iti proktam agnanam yat atonyatha. So Krishna defined these around 20 items of knowledge, starting from amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, rajyavam. And these last items are adhyatma gnana nityatvam. So what Prabhupada mentions by that is there are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject. But according to Bhagavad Gita, such research work and philosophical speculation have no value. That is more or less nonsensical. According to Bhagavad Gita, one should make research by philosophical discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make research to understand with what the self is concerned. That is recommended here. So, Adhyatma Gnana Nityatvam means there is research. The but the research should be done with proper guidance on proper subject, not on sense gratificatory subjects. Because in the field of sense gratification, there is only fixed, determined happiness that is already adjudicated for everyone. So it's a waste of valuable human life to do research on something which is mundane. Like Prabhupada gives the example. There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject. So they have no value. They are more or less nonsensical. The Shastra has already concluded Nirupitaha Avichutordaha Kabibhir Nirupito. They have already done the research and have come to the conclusion, established the conclusion. Who has done that? Kavibihi, the great souls, great learned souls. Avichutordaha, infallible purpose, and there is nothing better than that. What is that? Yad uttama shloka gunanuvarnanam. With your occupational duties, with your research work, with whatever you are doing, that should help or that should make you come to the point of glorifying the Supreme Lord. Let's say you are researching about how this solar system works. And now you should do research, and at the end, you should identify how Krishna is arranging all this. It's not happening randomly. How there is scientific arrangement of all this, and there are laws of nature working perfectly, immaculately. You prove it. You discover all these gravitational constants, various constants in physics. That means that is required to explain something. So, why is there that gravitational constant? What is the need for you to insert? That means math also is proving that unless you assume certain things, you cannot prove an equation. And that is Krishna. That is Krishna's invisible force. Even science agrees there are many things in this universe cannot be explained. There's dark matter, dark energy, which comprise totally of 95% of this universe, which we have no idea what they are about. So you do research and come to the conclusion how Krishna is arranging this. This is the proper research. To understand how to glorify the Lord is actual research. Because that, without coming to that conclusion, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapah Apranasyeva hi dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. You may have a great birth, great intelligence, great eloquence, great knowledge, but if it is devoid of Bhagavad Bhakti, it is like decoration of a dead body. What is the use of decorating a dead body? It is dead. So, whatever we acquire, whatever assets we have, whatever knowledge we have to be used, those have to be used ultimately to come to the point of Bhagavad Bhakti. Earlier in 1973, a scientist had come to the university and had given a lecture on how life had arisen from a combination of four primordial elements: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. So that's what the scientists they say, how the life has come about. And with so many technical words and diagrams and formulas, he tried to establish that life had come from these material elements. And at the end of the presentation, there was one devotee. He stood up and inquired, all right, life has come from these elements. So if I give you these ingredients, how much ever you want, will you be able to produce life? And that scientist had replied, that I do not know. And later, Srila Prabhupada got to know how this disciple had asked that question. And he was so pleased and proud that he was exposing these atheistic theories. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham bija pradah pita. Life is produced because of spirit soul. When there is conception, unless the spirit soul enters, that combination of the semen and the egg, it does not grow, it does not sustain. There has to be the soul that has to be injected. Similarly, Krishna injects the souls into this Mahat Tattva and they come out in different forms and shapes according to their desires, according to their karma. So, spirit soul has to be given by Krishna, it's part and parcel of Krishna. Without spirit soul, there is no life. And then, Adhyatma Gnana Nityatvam, Tattva Gnanartha Darshanam. Prabhupada talks about Tattva Gnanartha Darshanam means Tattva Gnana means self realization. As far as self realization is concerned, it is clearly stated herein that Bhakti Yoga is especially practical. As soon as there is question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between the super soul and the individual soul. The individual soul and the super soul cannot be one, at least not in the bhakti conception, the devotional conception of life. So many times people have fascination about this word self realization. And many times, many spiritual paths, they propagate this idea of self realization devoid of God. Understand yourself. At the best, they'll come to the point of spirit soul. But actual self realization, Prabhupada beautifully explains somewhere. For example, you are in darkness and you don't even see yourself, isn't it? Even if a mirror is brought in front of you, you cannot see yourself because there is no light, pitch dark. But in the morning, when the sun comes, when there is effulgence, when you see the sunlight, when you see the sun, and then you can see yourself. Mirror is brought in front, or even without mirror, you can see yourself, all the parts of the body. You can understand how you look. So that is called self realization. So that means unless there is God in your life, there is effulgence through God, unless you invite God, unless you there is a connection with God, there is no question of self realization. So self realization automatically means there is Krishna consciousness. So this is called Adhyatma Gnana Nityatvam Tattva Gnanartha Darshanam. We have to take this from the scripture, what is explained. One time, some devotees proposed to Srila Prabhupada. They were forming this scientific institute called Bhaktivedanta Institute. It is still there. The purpose is to scientifically explain the Krishna conscious concepts so that people from scientific background they can appreciate it. So the devotees who were scientifically oriented, they wanted to form this under Prabhupada's order and guidance. So they were looking to name that institute as Bhakti Vedanta Research Institute because research is so popular and people like to give some weight for it. But Srila Prabhupada was emphatic. No, no research. And he said, the research is already done in Bhagavad Gita. No research. And the devotees later on, they formed the Bhaktivedanta Institute and they started to write different articles and even published a, I believe, an article or a book, The Scientific Basis of Krishna Consciousness. It's very well done. That means the establishment of truth is already done in the scripture. It is about how you, based on that established tenet, you go and research. And you must come to that conclusion. Otherwise, you are going haywire. And then Prabhupada concludes this service of the individual soul to the Supreme Soul is eternal, nityam, as is clearly stated. So, bhakti or devotional service is eternal. One should be established in that philosophical conviction, otherwise, it is only a waste of time, ignorance. So, one should have that conviction in bhakti, in relation with the Lord, who the Lord is, who you are, what is our relation. In Sri Rangam, there lived a great scholar and devotee, Parashar Bhattar, and he was famous for writing an commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama, very powerful. So Parashar Bhattar, he was having many disciples, and he used to teach from scriptures. So every day, one Pandit, he used to walk across his house, and that Pandit had many disciples. And that Pandit was very learned in scriptures, and he was adored by everyone. But this Parashara Bhattar, He was not paying full attention to him and not talking to him much. But at the same time, one poor Brahmana was walking by his house every day. And this Brahmana was a family man, but poor. He was neither master of any scriptures nor Sanskrit. He used to collect alms from everyone's house in his brass vessel and take it as his daily food. And while doing so, he used to chant the holy names and some shlokas, even incorrectly sometimes. So Parashar Bhattar would eagerly go to him every day and ask him about his welfare and converse with him. And so this Parashar Bhattar's disciples, they were puzzled by his behavior. They asked him, "Oh dear Guru Maharaj, you are not talking to that great Pandit, you are ignoring him, but you are giving so much respect to this poor Brahmana. He doesn't seem to have any knowledge, great knowledge of scriptures. Why is it?" And so this Parashar Bhatta replied, "Please wait, you will understand tomorrow." So the next day, the Pandit passed by. Parashar Bhattar invited him to his house and offered him seat and all respects. And then he asked him, "I have one small question, can you please answer it? What is the ultimate reality? Paratattva nama kim?" What is Paratattva and what is his name? Who is the ultimate reality and what is his name? What is the name? And this Pandit became nervous and he said, "Oh, this is the same question for which I also don't have an answer. You are inquiring correctly. We have to inquire about this in life. I am still researching. I thought you will ask something else. After reading through all the scriptures, I am very much confused about Paratattva." And then the pleasantries and all that they finished and he left. And after some time, the Brahmana came. And again, Parashar Bhattar invited him to his house. But the Brahmana was very embarrassed that he's given so much respect and became very nervous. And Parashar Bhattar asked him the same question: "Who is Paratattva? What is his name?" And immediately the Brahmana became furious and he started to shout, "I was thinking you are a great scholar, but what are you teaching your disciples without knowing this basic question? Lord Ranganatha, who is residing in this Srirangam temple, he is the Paratattva." And angrily he just left the place. And then Parashar Bhatta said to his disciples, "See, he is having such a clear idea about Paratattva, the supreme truth, and such a strong conviction. Whereas the scholar, even after reading so many scriptures, is not sure about the supreme truth." That is why I respect this Brahmana so much. So the moral is that the culmination of all our spiritual practices should lead to a strong faith in who is absolute truth. He is a personality, and people who have not come to that level will understand him to be some effulgence, some Brahman effulgence, or who have gone a little step further, they will think him to be Paramatma in our hearts. But who have gone even higher, the highest level of understanding is he is a personality whose bodily effulgence is the Brahman effulgence, whose plenary expansion is the Paramatma in the heart. But he is a person, he has his abode, he has his associates, and we belong there, and we have come here rebelling against service, wanting to become God ourselves. But by the mercy of the spiritual master who comes from Goloka, we again revive that original knowledge. And we again start to have that faith. That is ultimate understanding. It doesn't matter what research you do. Ultimately, you come to that understanding, you are perfect. Otherwise, you may study Shreya Shrutim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Kevala Bodhalabdhaye Teshamaham Kleshala Eva Sishyate Nanyad Yatha Sthula Tushavaghasinam. It is like beating empty husks of wheat. So when the grain is taken away, you keep beating the empty husks. Nothing will come out of it. It is Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. So the real thing is that grain. Once you have that grain, it doesn't matter whether you work hard or not. You get the ultimate thing. So Prabhupada also says here, being inquisitive about learning scriptures is good. However, chanting should continue very seriously. Only by chanting, our intelligence will become clear and we can understand the conclusion of the scriptures. And so Prabhupada concludes in this purport, beginning from, so we have 20 items discussed from humility, amanitvam, adambhitvam, pridelessness, these 20 items. So he says, beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of the supreme truth, tattvagnanardha darshanam, the absolute personality of Godhead, the supreme truth. This process is just like a staircase, beginning from the ground floor, up to the top floor. Now, on this staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, etc. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at a lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is harmful. To think oneself God is most puffed up. Although the living entity is always being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, still he thinks, I am God because of ignorance. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth. See that amanitvam adambhitvam means humble. Understand you are infinitesimal. You don't compete with God. You serve God. You accept the supremacy of God. You are tiny. Who are we in front of this gigantic material manifestation? We are at the mercy of the laws of nature. We are always being hit by adhyatmic, adhibautik, adidaivik kleshas. Three kinds of miseries. We have no control, and we seem to have some kind of control. Oh, I'm controlling things, I'm doing things. For time being, it's an illusion. So better to surrender to Krishna and let him control our lives. So that requires humility. That requires that surrender nature, that submission. Now, why should I submit to somebody? Like a citizen says, no, why should I follow the government? I don't want to surrender. I don't want to hear. I don't want to pay tax. I don't want to drive on right side of the road. Who are they to tell me? I'll do what I want. And it's trouble for him. He's causing disturbance. He needs to be rectified, reformed. He's put in jail. And he cannot say, oh, who are they to control me? He's automatically under control. Either you accept voluntarily or you accept involuntarily. So better to accept voluntarily. Then you become Just like Prabhupada gives the example. The devotees are like the gold. You take a golden ring, and Krishna is like the diamond stone. Together, the combination is beautiful. It's not that we have no role to play, only Krishna is enjoying. No. Together, the whole thing looks beautiful. So, one time, the devotees were reading from Krishna book. They say, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, it says that in Krishna book, that Krishna's palaces in Dwaraka were illuminated with the jewels on the wall. They were studded with jewels." And then Prabhupada stopped and he lifted his cane and he waved at all the devotees that were there and he said, "These devotees are my jewels." That means being devotee of Krishna, even though it may seem like, oh, we are surrendering to somebody, submitting to somebody, serving somebody, but that is a glorious position, not an ordinary position. We'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments? Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.